So the second race after the lunch break, Motorsport School Turbo Tin Top Series and the Cartech Motorsport Modern Classic Series. And the Motorsport School is the one for the modern hot hatchback, if you will, in so many ways. And it's an all TVR Tuscan front row. Aaron Moyes on pole position and Stuart Dayburn in second place. So an all TVR front row for the Motorsport School Turbo Tin Top Series and the Cartech Motorsport Modern Classic Series. You'll find them a little bit further down the order with modern hatchbacks, Honda Civics, Minis and the like. But still some TVRs down in the middle of the pack. They're the ones that are going to have the grunt and may well be able to advance. Billy Thompson, the red number 25. Look out for him coming forward. But it's the Aaron Moyes on front row and his TVR Tuscan on pole. Stuart Dayburn alongside. So TVR Tuscan's popular in period, that wonderful TVR Tuscan challenge. And they really were great in the day, but good to see those still out racing. And I know there are a host more that may yet hit the circuits next year in particular. It's almost like an anniversary. Oh dear, one of the Minis is slowing down and pulling off. That was down just ahead of 95, so it looks like there's going to be no race start for them. If you're fans of Mazda RX-7s, they were fantastic in period, and great to see the period livery on that. And that's Alex Taylor who'll be starting the RX-7 from the inside of the second row. Razda Racing with, he's the sponsor of that one, with Alex Taylor. So just to reiterate, as the field follows the safety car around, the pace car around on this formation lap. In fact, I'm just taking a little look as they go out of Pilgrim's Drop up Hawthorne Hill. The front row, Aaron Moyes, it should be Stuart Dayburn, but we've got Andre Rath there. He's starting a little bit further back, I feel. But anyhow, Stuart Dayburn is, there we are, second position. And third position, Alex Taylor on the grid. But I think the car in fourth place may not be there. The red BMW of Peter Selden. That was in the previous race and he got spun round. And I think maybe not able to start this race. And it looks as though Alan Thompson in his BMW M3 has been promoted to position. Then John Walker in his Porsche Boxster. Keith Issett in a Mini. And then behind will come Cam Tunyo, a Honda Civic. You can just see that in the back of the track, just getting some heat in its tyres as they go down into the compression at Dingle Dell. Next up should be the Pug Sport Peugeot, the Peugeot 208 of Carl Chambers, Matt Nossiter, BMW 328i, 11th position Aidan Farrell, a Porsche 993 RSR, then Roger Hamilton, a Ginetta G20, behind Richard Hayes, a Toyota Celica GT4, and a Porsche Boxster, Rob Hardy. That's sponsored by Verium Builders. Then behind a Ford Fiesta ST, and that's one that's got Toby Harris and Lisa Selby. Not on board at the same time in this race. We will be having a pit stop come the middle of the race. It's a 40-minute race, so they can do the maths on that one. But right now, coming out of Stirling's in 2x2 formation, missing just Peter Selden, who qualified fourth fastest, isn't taking the start of the race. I can't see if he's in the pit lane as I look out of the window. Yes, he is in the pit lane. He'll be having a pit lane start, so he'll be at the back of the field. Look for red BMW E36 coming from the back of the field. It's car number 97. We'll keep an eye out on that one. And again, the field is absolutely immense. 23 rows of cars, 46 cars in all. And the car at the very back of the grid will be Paul Clothier. Didn't get a time in his Mini in qualifying. But right now, it's two TVRs at the front of the field. Aaron Moyes, car number 57 on pole position, and Stuart Dayburn alongside in the grey number 70. Waiting for the lights on the gantry to go green, and Alex Taylor caught slightly napping on the second row. Looks like he's being passed in very short order by Alan Thompson and possibly John Walker as well. Down, we're up over the rise and then into the drop, out of Paddock Hill Bend they go, but Alex Taylor did hold on to third position just. The Honda Civic is making a real charge. It's Cam Tunyo looking up the inside of the yellow Civic. Is he going to gain a position? Well, he's got one, may get two positions. He comes up into sixth. No, he's only gained the one. He's gone past the Ginetta that had started very quickly indeed. The Ginetta of Roger Hamilton went up from the sixth row to get right in the mix, so that was a flyer through Paddock Hill Bend. Neat and tidy out of Druids, that's good to see. Bunching up a little bit with the tighter corner. Graham Hill Bend used to be a sweeping corner down the hill, but it's been quite some time since it was tightened up. Change for second place, because our pole starter Aaron Moyes has lost out on the decline and has dropped back a long way. So Stuart Dayburn leading the race in behind Alex Taylor, who I slightly feared he'd be swamped at the start of the race, but they've rocketed clear. Mazda RX-7 taking a look with that proper period livery. Pentax, very crisp with the black, the red and the white roof. Bonnet on the Mazda RX-7 into Dingledale, up the other side. Of course, loads of grunt and that wonderful sound from the TVR Tuscan at the head of the field. Now, was it just a little bit of a mistake from the pole qualifier, Aaron Moyse? Or is that actually the natural pace of the car? But the driver who's certainly really inspired in the first stage of the race is the driver in third place in the Honda Civic. That's Cam Tunyo. He's got to watch it. He's got the Ginetta of Roger Hamilton right under his tail. Green BMW M3 going well at the front. That's Alan Thompson should be coming over the line in fourth place. Yes, he is. So it's Stuart Dayburn leading the race. Alex Taylor in second place in the Mazda RX-7. Poleman Aaron Moyse in third. And then, yes, indeed, it is Thompson, Alan Thompson coming over the line in fourth place. And it's 2 by 2 behind the Ford Fiesta ST going well there. Car number 7. Driven by Toby Harris in the first half of this 40-minute race. More TVRs down the middle order, making their way forward. That's a Griffith on a spot on 50. That makes it Michael Blake up into Druids, picking off a position. These Ginettas around the outside of the Druids seem to be gaining places very handily. Such brilliant cars in terms of handling, so nimble. Two of them making progress in tandem. And we have spinners. Spinners aren't winners, and that's going to Graham Hill Bend. Two minis going for a spin. Not troubling the leaders, but certainly troubling their track positions. So all rejoined, and the lead battle rejoined because the race leader Alan Thompson in the bright green E36 BMW M3, but it's a 2-horse race at the front of the field. The car with many horses, Stuart Dayburn, so much power for the TVR Tuscan Challenge car at the front of the race, and in behind, having to carry its momentum, work its momentum, the rotary engine. It's only 1300cc in the Mazda RX-7, but when it starts to spin, gobbles through the fuel, but plenty of grunt, but not as much as the TVR. It's all about being smooth and balanced, and I suggest that maybe Aaron Moyse was a bit conservative early on. He started on pole position, fallen back to third, and right now I think he's starting to make a bit of a comeback. Yes, on that lap he lost a little bit. He's 1.8 seconds down in third place, but I do think we're going to see more from him. He's just looking a little bit more balanced at this point in the race. People enjoying the action. Lee Campbell seen in his white and blue Mini in the mix at the background of the shot, but so many classes of racing with these two categories, the Kartech Motorsport Modern Classics and the Motorsport School Turbo Tin Tops, and many classes within each. So you know, for a lot of these drivers, they always talk about, I'm just racing for my class position. Of course, they all want outright victory, but only one driver is going to be able to take that. And on this lap, Stuart Dayburn showing a little bit more intent. But I really do sense, yes, are they being caught by the car behind? Maybe it's an optical illusion, but actually, whenever I think that Aaron Moyse is now happy with the grip he's getting from his tyres and is going to start to attack, he actually is losing a tenth or two, just dropping out of the background of the shot. Maybe it was the foreshortening image that made it look as though he was catching them as they went down Pilgrim's Drop. But first two cars, well, we can see how close they are. Oh dear, and a Honda Civic is parked out at Surtees. Absolutely beached, front end deep in the gravel there. I think that's the Dan Ludlow car, Ruck Pen Limited. Yeah, that's correct. Stuart Emmett was hoping to take that over in the second half of the race. It doesn't look as though he's going to get an opportunity. Battle for sixth place, Kim Tonyo being pushed very hard by Roger Hamilton, the little low Ginetta G20. Fantastic little cars, brilliant track day cars, and clearly a useful tool. But that's the diversity of motor racing when you've got the Snodhurst Civic sitting just in front. It couldn't be more different in the way it's made to perform, and its lap times all but identical. And oh, is it hand up for Cam Tunyo? Hand out of the window, just double checking. Have we got anything beyond? Well, it's still showing green on the screen, but they're all being signalled. Perhaps we're going to have a full course yellow. It's safety car. Okay, safety car because of that beached Honda Civic. So unfortunate there for Dan Ludlow, just didn't get it turned in properly at Surtees, and once you run wide, it's very hard to get it back, and unfortunately the car stationary, not damaged, but sitting in the gravel trap. So safety car period. The clock continues to run. We've still got We've only had 6 minutes this race. Race leader was, well, it came down to under a second there. Stuart Dayburn just ahead of Alex Taylor. In fact, it didn't come down. That's really how they crossed the start-finish line before the safety car signal was issued, and then they picked that up when they were just up around Druids, and the marshals would hold out those SC boards along with the waved yellow flags. No overtaking. The drivers know that rule at least. So the safety car under the bridge on Pilgrim's Drop. The grey TVR Tuscan in behind. That's race leader Stuart Dayburn. In behind him, Alex Taylor in the very, very pretty Mazda RX-7. That's number 66. And third on the track, the driver who started on pole position, Aaron Moyes, in the second of the TVR Tuscans. Then the bright green Alan Thompson BMW M3. And behind him, John Walker in the Walker Motorsport Porsche Boxster. So running at a bated pace. A Lotus that was off where it wasn't supposed to be, but they're taking the opportunity to remove that. So that presumably went off at the end of the Cooper Straight or along the side of the Cooper Straight. That has been removed to a safer position. Now go and park it up sort of at McLaren on the loop through on the Indy circuit. And for Dan Ludlow, being asked to go back to the car to help with the removal. So frustrating, small margins, just getting slightly wrong at Surtees, and the track really doubles back on you as the slope starts to kick up as it goes out of the Grand Prix loop. And once you're just going towards that gravel, hard to avoid it, and once you're in it, you're in it. The clock continues to count down. I would think we'd have the safety car out until we're 10 minutes into this race. We're 8 minutes in now. What it does mean when the battle is rejoined, it's going to be nose to tail, and it's up to Stuart Dayburn to read the situation, decide when to plant the throttle. He has to wait for the lights to go out on the safety car, which will indicate it will be coming into the pits. It's just approaching pit in, but no sign of those lights going out, so it'd be one further lap at the minimum, while the Honda Civic is stricken and stuck in the gravel at Surtees. So we'll pass the halfway point in the 10-minute point, which is a quarter distance in this race behind the safety car. Great to see the fans back on the banking at Brands Hatch. So frustrating for all parties concerned. And what's always noted is, it looks fantastic. It's great for people to be back here, but the drivers love it too. And the teams, they like to play to an audience, and it really makes a difference. And so there have been various trial events around British Motorsport, and it's great that fans are allowed back all around the circuits. It's great the sun is shining on this bank holiday weekend at Brands Hatch. A huge diversity of cars coming out to race in support of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. 2 rounds the Sprint Cup, and the first round was very, very dramatic indeed. And the Honda, I'm pleased to report, is now clear of the gravel, just up at Surtees, and can it be driven away? They've managed to tow it out of the gravel. Use the flatbed truck to tow it out. I'm just waiting for that to get going. So the flatbed truck had already picked up one car and got to help with another, so multitasking in the best way possible. So for these drivers, a lot of them be thinking, hold on, what's the time? 40-minute race, we can start pitting towards the halfway point, just before the halfway point. Some may dive straight in when we get released, or within a lap or two, and others will then go to the very end of the pit window before they think it's wise to come in. Half an hour to go in this race. A bated pace behind the safety car. A chance to look at the diversity. BMW, Porsche Boxster, Honda Civic, Ginetta G20. And so on and so forth. So many different sorts of cars. It's just the wonderful diversity. And in there was the Peugeot 208. Carl Chambers running very well. He's running in 8th place overall. You can just see him coming into shot, the yellow Peugeot. And the front bodywork obviously knocked a little bit loose on that Honda Civic. That was clearly when it hit the gravel and nosed in. That brought it to a halt. Didn't bring the race to a halt, just to an abated pace. But the Honda is now being driven down to go into the back of the paddock at the end of the pit lane. Sorry, at the entry of the pit lane, and will be kept there until the end of the race. Doesn't want to go into the pit lane, because of course the pit lane will be used very soon indeed when it comes to the mandatory pit stops. And you certainly feel that Stuart Dayburn, who's not handing over to anyone, has to make his pit stop, but he can pick and choose his moment. I would suggest he would like to get going. He's going to get going very soon indeed, because the lights are out on the safety car. That means it's going to withdraw at the end of this lap, and Alex Taylor in the Mazda RX-7 is just thinking about, he's got to anticipate. He can't overtake the TVR in front of him, and the TVR behind needs to anticipate the moment as well. Otherwise, the driver who has the answers to the question is the driver leading the race. That's Stuart Dayburn. Nobody goes until he does, but it's about the cars behind not losing. Waiting, he hasn't hammered the throttle. Now he has, just as he gets to clearways, and they can only respond to what he does. And it looks like the driver who's responded very well is Alan Thompson in 4th place. Can he get close to the TVR in 3rd? Yes, he can, but the first two have got away very well. The sheer grunt of the TVR Tuscan will draw Stuart Dayburn clear, but Alex Taylor read that very well indeed in the Mazda RX-7. Carl Chambers in the sit-up and beg Peugeot getting very close indeed to the Ginetta G20 of Roger Hamilton. All twitchy sideways. You want to go left, you want to go right, but Alex Taylor thought now was his opportunity. Didn't quite work for him at Druids, and he's accelerating before the front end's got any grip whatsoever, so a little bit wild on the way out of Druids, but didn't get the lead, but full marks for trying. And having made a good restart, Alan Thompson suddenly is being pressured by the Porsche Boxster, John Walker, getting very close, pale grey, and then in behind Chambers. We've got the Honda Civic going well, that's Cam Tunyo. The first two, well, a real valiant, excellent exit from Surtees from the Mazda RX-7. Had a look up the inside at Druids, having a look up the inside, and is he? Yes, he is, getting the move done into Hawthorns. So he's certainly very, very positive indeed. And the car in 3rd place off the track behind them. That was at Hawthorns, and is he going to rejoin? Is he just pulling off? Well, he's not accelerating back onto the circuit, so 3rd place becomes no place, unfortunately, and up into 3rd goes Alan Thompson, the BMW M3. Oh dear, drive lost for the TVR Tuscan. Now can TVR regain the lead of the race? The grunts are plenty for Stuart Dayburn as he exits. Nice tidy exit from Stirling's. Pit stops to start very soon indeed, but I don't think these front two runners are going to be making their pit stops just yet. They've got to see how this settles down. But for Alex Taylor, maybe he was being bottled up in the first part of the race. He was only 0.6 of a second down before the safety car came out. We've got a handful of cars actually in the pit lane at the moment. I'm not sure if they've got problems or intending to make their pit stop, but no, I think they're the ones at the very tail of the field making their pit stop. And from the front row, Kim Tunyo, not the front row, the front end of the grid from 6th place, Kim Tunyo's brought the Honda Civic into the pit lane. There he is. Now, Cam Tunyo, number 15, Snodhurst Racing, but of the other front runners, they're staying out there. And the little Peugeot 208 is in as well. That was the yellow Peugeot 208, car number 72, Carl Chambers. So tail end of the top 10 coming in, but the front two, no, absolutely not. Alex Taylor was leading by 0.5 of a second when they crossed the start-finish line. Looks like he's actually again made a very, very good exit from Surtees, which pays huge dividends. Of course, he has to make a good exit because he doesn't want to be caught by the charging TVR Tuscan, which has far more grunt than the Mazda. And in behind them, 3rd place, the bright green BMW M3, lights ablaze for Alan Thompson, but the Porsche Boxster, John Walker, starting to come alive now gained an advantage in so many ways, got back onto the tail, was helped. The deficit was closed right down behind the safety car, but it's amazing how fast it's opened up. The first two cars escaping. The battle for 3rd and 4th just starting to drop. Roger Hamilton, who's running in 5th in the number 271 Ginetta. This red car just tucked in, trying to stay with them. Wants to get a bit closer because then he can start harrying them with the Ginetta, but lovely clean line that car really does handle. Great shots going out of the corner at Stirling's, over the ridge, down into the drop from clearways, dropping even further into Clark Curve, and so satisfying if you can get the power down and almost feel as though you're cradled around the corner. Good lap for the race leader though. Alex Taylor gained the best part of a second, starting to drop Stuart Dayburn. They're nearly 1.5 seconds apart in 1st and 2nd. Much, much closer behind them. They're almost a dozen seconds back. 3rd place, Battler. And Thompson still ahead of Walker. BMW still ahead of Porsche Boxster with the Ginetta hanging in there for Roger Hamilton. And then now up into 6th place. He's gaining ground as a few of the other rivals make their pit stops. Number 129, Grout, has risen up the order. So that really has been a big, big gain for the Grout car, working its way up towards the front. That's Tommy Grout, BMW M3. Oh, is this a change for third place? Most certainly it is. The Porsche Boxster just having handling there nicely up the inside at Surtees for John Walker. So Alan Thompson's got to see what he can do. He's going to have a little bit more grunt. And he's exited Surtees the better by going in a little bit deep. The Porsche Boxster just couldn't get the power down in time, but he knows what it's like in third place. Alas for him, it lasted for about a matter of metres. But then just got the handling. Up at Hawthorne, takes a look. Can he get his nose inside for Westfield? And then behind them, the Ginetta for Roger Hamilton, just waiting to see if he can get a part in this play. He's caught them in the last lap, and as they struggle, he manages to keep up, and he will put his nose in where he thinks there's a gap when it arises. Oh dear, the Honda Civic off at the side of the circuit. Or is that the Integra? Just trying to see which car it was. It might be the Integra, actually. It was, could be Jonathan D, Tom D, Honda Integra. We'll wait to see on that. Quite hard to see through the smoke. Alan Thompson holding on to third place. The Porsche Boxster pushing very hard. That's John Walker. So none of these coming in. The first two cars have issued going into the pits as yet, enjoying themselves too much, and also just wanting to extend their run. Third and fourth, it's still Thompson ahead of Walker, separated by half a second. The Ginetta comes in from fifth place though. Roger Hamilton, he got close. He'll have the mandatory time in the pit stop, and maybe, just maybe, he might be able to squeak out ahead of these others if they delay themselves any more and he gets back out and can run without their interruption. He may emerge in what turns out to be third place. But the big question is, how much is Thompson delaying Walker? Is he holding back the pace of the Porsche Boxster? We could well see if one gets ahead of the other, but if he is holding him up, then this is going to be to the advantage of the pitting Ginetta. Out of Surtees they go, up over the rise. Get to this point, then the track starts to drop, and then it drops far faster. Down into Pilgrim's Drop they go. Down the drop, and then immediately up to Hawthorne Hill. And again, the grunt that's enjoyed by the BMW M3, running in third place, is clear to be seen. But through the corners, the Porsche Boxster's that little bit more grippy as the handling. Down to Dingle, there they go, but the race leader, Alex Taylor, cool, calm, collected, comfortable. He was 0.94 of a second clear. It was a better lap last time around for the chasing Stuart Dayburn. Alex Taylor, very clean run onto the start-finish straight. It was 0.9 of a second. It looks to be about, so no, it's 1.3 seconds, so slightly better lap for the race leader, but Stuart Dayburn far from finished in the grey number 70 TVR Tuscan Challenge racer. Up to Druids, great to see. A far brighter day. It was a slightly grey morning. We had some threatening clouds that came to naught, but that was a grey morning, and now we've got a beautiful sunny afternoon at Brands Hatch. These cars looking at their very best in this fantastic, tricky circuit. For any driver racing here, it's a thrill, but it's a challenge too, and so I think a win here, particularly on the Grand Prix Loop, is that little bit more special than the vast majority of races they ever compete in. Highlight of the calendar. So Alex Taylor driving absolutely beautifully, trying to keep that Mazda RX-7 balanced. It's certainly a very good handling car. And the enjoyment for both of these drivers, there are no cars up ahead of them, but as they turn into Westfield, there's a 5-car gaggle just going through Sheen Curve, which they will catch in the next few laps, but hopefully from their point of view, that will be the point at which they decide, let's make the pit stop. Around the Grand Prix Loop, it looks though Alex Taylor's gained a few tenths, but the grunt of the TVR very, very strong. Indeed, the Mazda RX-8 will be the first car the Mazda RX-7 catches. Will he decide now is the time to come in to make a pit stop? Yes, he will. He slows. Will Stuart Dayburn continue? I think he'll come in as well. Yes, he does. First and second into the pits. So if he continues, it means we will have Alan Thompson, the BMW M3, going into the lead of the race, just waiting for him to come through. Waiting to see if he dives into the pits as well, but such has been the advantage of the first two cars, he hasn't come into sight as yet. They were 20 plus seconds clear, and only now coming into clearways and not into the pit comes the green BMW M3. So Alan Thompson will really start to wind it up. He's coming up on the tail of a blue Mazda RX-8, very, very standard, but in from behind him, John Walker in the Porsche Boxster just entered the pit lane. So Alan Thompson has decided to do different. But the good thing for him, as he drives up to Druids and around the hairpin at the top of the hill, there is nobody in front of him. The next closest car is just turning to 30. He's got so much space to play with that if he was being slightly slowed in that battle for third place, he can concentrate and bang in a couple of quick laps. As long as he gets in before the pit window closed, then it really will be something that could really make his race, could shape where he finishes on the, whether it's the podium or not. And just looking to see who's got the fastest lap of the race in the bag at the moment. It's actually Alex Taylor, 1 minute 40.5 seconds. He's in the pits, and the best of the rest, 1 minute 40.9 seconds, nearly 1 minute 41 flat for Stuart Dayburn. So absolutely perfect racing conditions right now. I haven't really talked too much about the car that started from stone last from the pit lane, Peter Selden. He's been picking his way up the orders. Thank goodness he got to make a race start, but competing in 2 consecutive races does make things very difficult indeed when that happens. That wasn't the original plan, but a shuffling of the race program meant that he had to start last and then see how high he can pick his way up the order. In its own way, it means you don't get lots of points, but you do get lots of racing. To give a wave and a cheer, the driver who should have started 4th on the grid, Peter Selden, the BMW, the red, very standard-looking one in the background of the shot, car number 97. Oh dear, oh, that's a save and 3/4, the number 14 Mini. Oh, hasn't finished his moment as yet, but and breathe and settle on the track. So he managed somehow to get it straight coming through before they turned right. Was Lee Campbell in the MCR Mini. He'd been in a good gaggle of cars before, maybe slightly seeing what was happening with the red BMW that was closing down on him, but a very, very good save and something to talk about at the end of the day. Oh, time for a pit stop, why not? So Lee Campbell coming in to cool it down for a bit, consider life, and then go back into the race. But up front, it's just waiting to see if the green BMW will come in from the lead of the race, and then of course will lose the lead of the race. Peter Selden, by the way, just talking about him in that red BMW, had moved up to 2nd place. Bear in mind, he started from pit out, so after everybody else had charged off towards Paddock Hill Bend, so he's had quite a race. And another car that hasn't pitted as yet is Nick Hamilton, a Ginetta G20, and also Newton Darby hasn't called to the pits as yet. Charlie Newton Darby, car number 12. That's another Mini. So into Dingledale goes the race leader, sitting on an 8.6 second advantage. So this is really why we do need to focus on the progress of Peter Selden. From stone last, he's got within 8.6 seconds of the BMW that started, well, it was 5th on the grid, Alan Thompson, the green car, but promoted to 4th on the grid effectively by Peter Selden starting from the pits. And yet Selden has got to within 8.6 seconds. So that's a phenomenal race pace from Selden. And at this moment, oh, wow, you really sense the green BMW is about to dive into the pits, otherwise he'd have gone around the outside of that Mazda RX-8. So the erstwhile race leader comes into pit lane right now, the bright green BMW M3, and the next car in ought to be Peter Selden. He hasn't served a pit stop, and flashing through we have coming into a halt, erstwhile race leader, but what we've got to see is it's going to be Alex Thompson leading the race. That ought to be the case after his pit stop, but he's sitting in the pits. A little bit of attention to the front end. So is this trying to see if it's a problem or not at the front end? There is a bit of time in a 2-minute pit stop, just checking the tyre pressures, but all the driver Alan Thompson can do is sit still, but Alex Taylor back into the lead of the race, the 66 Pentax Mazda RX-7. Stuart Dayburn has come out of the pits quite some distance behind by the looks of things. They were pretty close before the pit stops. I'm waiting for the next timing interval before I say something that isn't correct. Of course, when cars make a pit stop, it's sometimes a short while until they get to the sufficient, is according to where they get their pit stop is within the pit lane, and you can get an artificial thing. So what we're getting is the Mazda coming on through. Nice tidy line for Alex Taylor, looking for Stuart Dayburn. A little A-bar just in front of them. And Alex Taylor That's coming around onto the start-finish straight through Clearways, through Clark Curve. He'll get the power down. We've got 14 minutes remaining in this race, and we'll get the margins with all the cars having served their pit stop. Taylor over the start-finish line. We've got waved yellow flags, and just waiting to see if everything's backed off, because the pace that Taylor had on that lap, 1 minute, or 2 minutes and 2, that was coming out of the pits. Okay, let's look back to second place. It should be Stuart Dayburn coming through, but there's an enormous gap between them.
So that's worked out really well for him. Thompson's going to come out.
So Thompson has just emerged in second place, but where is Stuart Dayburn? Just trying to see. He's been very, very slow in the second sector of this lap. A good sign through there was about 48 seconds. It was 1 minute 13 for the number 70 TVR Tuscan Challenge car. It probably means that Peter Selden will come out. The safety car is on the track just now, finally coming into view. And so Stuart Dayburn has obviously got caught on the wrong side of that, just waiting to get a sighter. Just trying to see if Stuart Dayburn's in that pack. Quite hard to tell from a distance, but certainly Alex Taylor's had huge advantage, and out into second place goes Alan Thompson, the BMW M3. Oh yeah, Stuart Dayburn, he's 6 cars back in that grey TVR Tuscan, has been picked up by the safety car. He's behind a couple of Minis, a Peugeot, a Porsche, 2 Porsches, another Lotus, Mazda RX. He's 8th in the line of cars, and on his tail he's got Roger Hamilton, who was running in 5th place before all that happened, and one of the other Ginetta G20s is now held up at pit exit, waiting until the gaggle of cars has gone, and is able to do that. So a real swing in the race there by where the safety car picked people up, and for Stuart Dayburn, the number 70 TVR Tuscan, he's obviously got to have a real get-go. But look, only got 12 minutes left in this race while the safety car runs around at the head of the field. And the field running nose to tail, but importantly for Alex Taylor, he's ahead of the safety car, and he's probably going to get the best part of half a lap advantage by the time the field is released. Safety car is leading the pack, a pack, through Surtees at the moment. So there is number 70 running down in 5th position now. So it was second before the safety car, and the timing of the safety car interrupted the form. But by being in the pits, able to get out ahead of the safety car, it means that Alan Thompson has moved up into second place, Peter Selden to third, just waiting for full confirmation of that, and Nick Hamilton to fourth. Nick started down in the 12th row of the grid in his Ginetta G20. But again, just waiting for the shuffle. The reason the safety car is required is the 122 Porsche is sitting in the gravel trap. That's we've only just removed a Honda Civic from there. And so when they're beached, it is a dangerous position, and the 122 Porsche will be dragged clear, but that has interrupted the flow of the race. Most certainly. That's James Alexander. Probably handed that 968 Club Sport over to Tom. Well, James to Tom Alexander, just trying to see. They should have made their pit stop, but obviously they've fallen off the timing screen because they've tumbled down to the back of the pack. Just waiting to see how quickly they can remove that Porsche 968 Club Sport from the Surtees gravel trap. But right now the clock continues to count down. 10.5 minutes remain. And the race leader, I'm just trying to see where he is on the tracker. The safety car has just gone through Sterling's, and now in about 20th position in the line, but leading the race out of Sheen Curve and turning into Sterling's right now is the Mazda RX-7 of Alex Taylor. He started third on the grid. He had a very positive opening stint in the race, and just waiting to see. The car that was second is the grey TVR Challenge car. The Prelude is out at the side of the track. That needs rescuing as well. That went out a short while ago, but why not remove it during the period behind the safety car? But I don't suggest the safety car is going on a lot further, but it's doing one further lap. It's only just passing the pits right now, so it's not in the pit lane. It hasn't pulled off, so while the racing is in some form of suspense behind the safety car, there's mopping up out on the track. That Porsche Club Sport car, unfortunately, it seems to be even deeper in the gravel at Surtees, having to be dug out by hand. And when I say by hand, I don't mean by hand with a shovel, I mean by hand with hands. So the delay is going to be a little bit longer, trying to see if they can get a rescue vehicle in close enough to tow it out. There is a flatbed quite close, and that pulled out the previous one, which was Dan Ludlow's Honda Civic in the gravel, but now with the Club Sports sitting in there as well, that is going to be a longer delay than at first I I fancied. So let's just run down the order. We've got Alex Taylor leading the race, and he's come up onto the tail of the pack. He just exited Graham Hill Bend, and the safety car is just approaching Pilgrim's Drop. He's got a 1.1 second advantage. No advantage can be gained at the moment behind the safety car over the green BMW M3 that started 5th. Alan Thompson at the wheel. And get this, Peter Selden in his red BMW M3 should have started from 4th on the grid. He started after the entirety of the field from pit exit, and the race has come to him by pitting late. He worked his way up the order, and he's running in 3rd place, just 0.9 of a second down on Thompson, so very close to him in the line of cars. So it really has been a race that Peter Selden can thank his lucky stars in so many ways. And in 4th place now, Stuart Dayburn, just waiting for him to cross the line another time. He's got 13 laps on the board, but the first 3 cars have got the best part of a lap's advantage. 14 laps completed by the RX-7, the Mazda of Alex Taylor. 14 laps completed by Alan Thompson, the green BMW M3, and 14 laps by Peter Selden in the red BMW M3. And for the rest, none have done more than 13 laps, with Stuart Dayburn leading their train. He's in the TBR Tuscan. Toyota Celica in the mix down there, car number 2. But not just outside the top 10. Richard Hayes in 12th place overall. So waiting, still the lights are flashing on top of the safety car, at least one further lap, but the clock, look, it's counted down to just over 7 minutes remaining in this race. And their pace behind the safety car, they're lapping in about between 2.5, 3 minutes behind the safety car. But the ones immediately behind the safety car are the ones running slowest of all. The ones that are setting the faster lap times are the ones who caught the back of the train, including the race leader, the Mazda RX-7. In fact, the last 3 cars in the train are the 3 cars, the Mazda RX-7, the green BMW M3 and the red BMW M3, that are all a lap up on their rivals. They're at the back of the queue, the last 3 cars in the queue, but they have that 90% of a lap of an advantage. Now the field is nose to tail. Huge diversity of cars up and down the order. So in many ways, the big question is, will we get a restart? Will we go green in this race? I really do hope we do. And for Alex Taylor, maybe in some ways he hopes they don't. Right, during the general clean-up, good, the Porsche Club Sport is underway. Tom Alexander now driving it down to Dingle and also the car that started on pole, Aaron Moyes, his TBR Tuscan, pulled to a halt on the exit of Hawthorns. That is now being towed back in. So busy days for the drivers of the flatbeds. They used to pull cars out. They used to take cars home on the flatbed. And it's the Honda Prelude that's sitting up high. Sorry, it's the Honda Integra. I think it's Jonathan Dee's car, I sense, on the flatbed. But that's got to get to a point where it can be removed from the circuit. And right now, the field behind the safety car is going down out of Westfield down to Dingle. But actually what's happened the last lap or so, that the train has really spaced out. They were far more compressed a couple of laps ago. For the first 3 cars, they had that enormous advantage, but they're getting further behind the safety car at this point. So some of the drivers in the middle of the pack need to pick up their pace. They can do nothing in terms of overtaking the cars ahead until the safety car is withdrawn. But look, we've got just over 5 minutes remaining in this race. The safety car still working its way around, but the pack does seem to have stretched out around the Grand Prix loop. The last ones in the pack, the last car in that train is Peter Selden in last place in the line. But just to reiterate, those top 3 cars are running in the last 3 positions in this line of cars, but they've got an enormous advantage. They will finish in the top 3 if they don't clash with each other, because nobody's going to build up in the space of what might be 2 minutes of racing. Not going to gain 3/4 of a lap, that's for sure. Lights out on the safety car, so 4 3/4 minutes remaining, and the Mini at the front of the queue will put the power down, but it will be swamped, and the driver who's hoping to do the swamping will be Stuart Dayburn. He was starting 8th in this line of cars, looking for the grey Tuscan to see how many he can pick off. None before the first corner, where he's going to gain 1 position by looks of things, going past, I think it was the Mazda RX-8. That was easy for him to pick off. He's only just got the braking done, and in on his tail, he's got Roger Hamilton trying to hunt him down in the 271 Ginetta. So that's the battle for 4th and 5th places, but it's the ones at the very tail of the queue that can be overtaking. Let's take a look as they come up to the start-finish line. lights ablaze on the Mazda. He's already started to pick the others off, and then Alan Thompson being given chased by Peter Selden. And now for the race leader, he's getting obstructed. 3 cars abreast in front of him. Stayed his acceleration as he went down into Paddock Hill Bend. On the exit, he's picking them off around the outside, but Alan Thompson having a look as well. He's also picked off the Abarth. Oh, the Abarth comes across his path. This could be an opportunity for Peter Selden. He wasn't close enough to make it work, but the Mazda in the lead of the race has had huge advantage. Really frustrating for Alan Thompson there. 2-3 cars in front of him, and they were right across his nose. All momentum checked down to Graham Hill Bend, and that is the gap, with already 4 cars between them for race leader Alex Taylor. He should be able to stretch his legs. 3.5 minutes remain in this race. It's a big, powerful car for them to pass the Ford Mustang Cobra, needing passing, and that gets past very tidily indeed. Certainly Alex Taylor driving very well. Green flag conditions to get past the Mustang, but the Mustang had loads of power on the run up to Hawthorns, but the job is done. Peter Selden had a better run through the traffic. It was a rotten run in second place for Alan Thompson, and I dare say a lot of the drivers there aren't really working out the fact that 3 cars that started at the back of the pack just aren't in the train. These are cars that are a lap up, and they've got far more performance. They're the first 3 cars in the race. To the outside at Sheen Curve. There isn't a lot of outside at Sheen Curve, so Alan Thompson has to back off a little bit. It's a good chance for Peter Selden. Can he go up the inside? Slightly battered from his contact in the previous race. Up the inside at Stirling's, compromises the pair of them. And that's even more advantage for Alex Taylor in his Mazda RX-7, but they're side by side in the battle for second place, and Selden's got his nose in front as they reach clearways. Well, that was a very, very good move, worked out by being bold. Spotted the compromise line at Surtees for Alan Thompson in the green BMW M3, and up from pit lane start, don't forget, into second place. Peter Selden's having a fantastic race, but Alex Taylor in the Mazda stretching clear. The traffic's worked really well for him. 5.3 seconds is his advantage. That is absolutely crucial. 2 minutes left on the clock. Just waiting. We'll have to wait almost until the checkered flag needs to be proffered for the car that's going to come round in 4th place, because don't forget, Stuart Dayburn, he's only now going to Pilgrim's Drop. He is in 4th place, but just, we've unfortunately one of the Ginettas, the blue one, on the grass on the exit of Graham Hill Bend. That's halfway along the Cooper Straight. He will rejoin, but that was a car looking to pick up a few positions. Oh, very positive in traffic there for Alan Thompson. Again, you have to sort of thread the eye of the needle. For the Mazda driver, the driver of the RX-7 started 3rd. That's Alex Taylor. He's having to be a little bit cautious, but he's built that 5-second advantage on the first lap of the restart. Going down the inside, or looking down the inside of the VW Scirocco. Had to check, it saw him. That was the car shared by John Hammersley and Nigel Tongue. Nigel should be on board in the second half of the race. Enton Zingledale. Just over a minute to go. May get one further lap. We'll wait and see if that proves to be the case, or if they will bring it to a conclusion. It's a tight, packed agenda here at Brands Hatch. The Lotus didn't give him any space, but it doesn't matter. Shaved off a couple of tenths of a second of his natural pace there, and he was saying thank you, or maybe not thank you. Hard to tell just there, but he's got that sizable advantage. I'd have to look and see if the checkered flag is going to come out, or will he squeak in one more lap, but he's got that comfortable margin over the chasing Peter Selden. Up the start, finish straight at Brands Hatch. Checkered flag, I thought it might come out, and so it has. So victory to Alex Taylor in a race of very much 2 halves. Peter Selden comes across the line in second place from the back of the grid, or starting from the pit lane. That was a wonderful run for him. And Alan Thompson having to settle for 3rd place, and then very nearly the best part of a lap behind. Only now just exiting Surtees is the driver who'll come home in 4th. That will be the driver who started the outside the front row. That will be Stuart Dayburn. He's got a long way to go, but he's got nobody immediately behind him. 5th place. Just waiting to see who's going to pick that up. If anyone's going to move up the order, it could be Kim Tunyo. Yes, the last lap. Roger Hamilton suddenly lost ground in the red Ginetta G20, and there's a real scramble for the rest. Down into Pilgrim's Drop, up Hawthorne Hill they go, but for the driver who started from the outside the front row, Stuart Dayburn, he's clear of all those battling cars behind, which will be a big relief for him. The Kim Tunyo's driven very well in his Honda Civic to regain the ground. Helped as the field was compressed, but he's made the most of it. And 129, Tommy Grout's driven very well to get up to 6th place overall, as Roger Hamilton just lost a couple of places on the previous lap. Very bright sunshine now at Brands Hatch, but sunshine and shade as they run from Stirling's back down over the crest and into the stadium section, into the amphitheatre. Dayburn has really dropped those behind. He's crossed the line in 4th place, and Kim Tonyo will be next, just about to cross the start-finish line. He fell back by 15 seconds in the end, but at least something for Stuart Dayburn, but it really would be a case of what might have been for him. Just such unfortunate timing of the safety car and his pit stop. And for Alan Thompson and Peter Selden, it worked very, very well indeed. But really, outright victory to Alex Taylor. Seems fair and square, deserved that, really drove beautifully in the Mazda RX-7. And obviously many, many different class battles, but it really was a case of just getting the cars in the right order behind the safety car, or just how the cookie crumbled for so many of them. But no debate there. Victory in the end by nearly 8.5 seconds for Alex Taylor, ahead of Peter Selden. And Peter already with the slight damage to the front end of his red BMW M3 will be rather pleased that he can't have expected to come away from this 40-minute race with a lot, having started from pit exit after the whole field had haired off to and through Paddock Hill Bend, but he made it work, and he must have the prize for the most cars overtaken to work up from the very back of the field up to 2nd place. So let's take a look at the results. 8 and a bit seconds between Alex Taylor in the Mazda RX-7 and the red BMW M3 of Peter Selden. The last lap was really unkind to Alan Thompson. He had the restart in 2nd place, got passed by Selden, and then fell back by half a minute to 42 seconds down. They were the only 3 cars on the lead lap by dint of the timing of the safety car, and Stuart Dayburn, who started 2nd, his TVR Tuscan Challenge car, had to make do with almost being lapped in his TVR. But he takes 4th place, just ahead of Cam Tunyo, who did very well indeed in the Honda Civic to take 5th overall. Many stories to tell for the drivers. Diverse field of cars representing the Motorsport School Turbo Tin Top Series and the Cartech Motorsports Modern Classic Series, and thoroughly enjoyable racing. And for those that got stuck in the gravel at Surtees, frustration indeed. But here is an emphasis of just how many cars went out to play, and we got 39 of them back, with Natalie McGloin bringing up the rear of those that did get to the finish of the race in 39th overall and running the Porsche. So that was another doubleheader race. 40 minutes of fun, 40 minutes of frustration for some, but certainly great pleasure for Alex Taylor, the victor in the Mazda RX-7.